Hey y'all. It is 7 o'clock and I'm so proud of myself for being so prompt today and excited to finally um, have had that conversation with myself about what is it that you want to do and how are you going to make it happen, because you need to commit and be consistent. Because I know my last couple of lives, I was like, hey guys, sorry, I haven't been as consistent as I wanted to be. I haven't been doing my every week thing and just asking for grace and just popping on all willy-nilly whenever I felt like it. And I had actually convinced myself for a moment that that was okay as long as I was showing up. But then I had to think about it. How do I want to show up? Do I want to show up just all haphazardly every once in a blue moon? Or do I really want to build a tribe who can depend on me to show up consistently for us to be able to grow and learn together? And that is why I created Running for Your Life. That is why I've done the radio show. That's why I wrote the book. And so I said, look, Stay Hall, you need to get your whole life together. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, but what we're not going to do is make excuses. And so here I am. I am committing to being here on a regular basis. And also, a little secret is the hallway is coming back too, because we have gotten some people reaching out to us, and they actually miss Wallace. People want to see Wallace sitting next to me. And so we are relaunching the hallway. Just a lot of exciting stuff going on. And if I'm nothing else, I am self-aware and I believe in being transparent. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys, because I know I have been slacking. And so I knew it was time for me to have that look in the mirror, that one-on-one, Stay Hall to Stay Hall, and just make a decision and do what I need to do, or decide that it's not what I want to do. As my grandmother used to say, pee or get off the pot. And so I decided, I don't know what I guess I'm peeing, which doesn't sound too good, but y'all know what I mean. So I am here. So, hey, y'all, happy Tuesday. Running for Your Life is back. I want to bring some great dialogue to you all moving forward, some good topics, ways for us, like I said, to learn and grow together. I want to share with you all the things that I have learned and what has helped me, because one thing I know in this world, we all go through things. And I mean, all, like capital ALL, we all go through things, no matter how alone we might feel in that time. There is someone else who has gone through exactly what you are currently going through. And so I want to be that person to be transparent and share what I've gone through to help others. I'm not one of those people to just try to keep it to myself and watch other people go through and not share my experience. I'm not ashamed of the things I've been through. I'm not ashamed of the things that I struggled with. And so I feel like if I've gone through something and I feel like my experience can help someone else, then that is what I'm going to do. That is what I've been charged to do. That is my passion. And so that's what I'm going to do. Hey, V. Hey, Michelle. Hey, ladies. Thanks so much for tuning in. And please share and invite some other people. And we are just going to jump right into today's topic, which is something that I think we hear a lot about, but I don't know if it's just buzzwords or do people really think about it. But we are talking about toxic relationships today. And I mean relationships. I'm not just talking about husband and wife. I'm not just talking about friendships. I'm talking about relationships in total. Any type of relationship that you can find yourself involved with can be a toxic relationship. And a lot of people are aware that they're in toxic relationships, or may even jokingly call a relationship a toxic relationship. But what do you really know about how to truly recognize a toxic relationship? And more so, what do we really know about how to avoid, get out of, restructure? And so that's what we're going to talk about: weeding through our relationships, and either weeding through them or weeding them out in order for us to be able to live at our highest self. Because we were put on this earth to have relationships and be relational, but we were not put on this earth to be used and abused and treated poorly. Our mental health, our energy is very important to how we show up in the world. If you are a person who has a lot of toxic relationships in your life, a lot of toxic people in your life. No matter how positive you try to be, no matter how upbeat you try to be, no matter what you try to manifest, no matter what you try to affirm, if you are constantly surrounded by toxic and negative sources, you're not going to be able to reach the goals that you intend. And when I'm talking about goals, I'm talking about it may be as simple as just wanting to be happy on a regular basis, because no matter what you have going on internally, what goes on around you affects you, whether you want to believe it or not. And so I just kind of want to talk today about these toxic relationships and how they affect us and what we can do to control them or get out of them. Because I think a lot of times when we are in toxic relationships, we don't realize that it's a two-way street. And I'm not saying that necessarily we are bringing some toxicity to the relationship. What I'm saying is we're enablers and we accept certain things, and it just causes us to be adding to the problem. And so we're just going to take a deep dive into toxic relationships, and I'm going to share some of my experiences, and just hopefully it helps someone. And that's kind of, what running for your life is all about, because one thing that I believe in wholeheartedly is LYFE, love yourself first explicitly. And if you find yourself being in toxic relationships and not knowing how to get out of them, or not knowing how to control or contain them, then you are not truly loving yourself first. And so we're going to talk about toxic relationships. So the first one I kind of want to touch on is the romantic relationship. Whenever you say relationship, that's usually the first thing that people think about is the relationship between a man and a woman, husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, dating, engaged, whatever it is. That's kind of the first thing that people think about, is that relationship. So that's what we're going to talk about. And so one thing that I want to put out there first and foremost is I really kind of have a pet peeve for people who are in toxic dating relationships. Now, y'all know I'm not judgmental, but I do have opinions. I understand that everyone's situation is different. The way people react to things is different. The way people recognize things is different. But I just feel like if more of us would notice the toxicness, if that's even a word, and y'all know I'm good for making up words too, but if you would notice it, or let's not even say notice it, because we're talking to grown people. I feel like most of my tribe is of my age group, 40 plus. So let's not even say notice it, because we notice the toxic things in dating relationships. But if you would acknowledge and recognize and act on the things that you see to be toxic when you're first dating, courting, whatever you want to call it, you wouldn't find yourself in a toxic relationship. Everyone knows Wallace and I got married when we were about 40. We had both been married before. So we were older, seasoned, mature when we got into our relationship and got married. But we both had dated a couple of other people before we found each other. And there were certain men that I had run across in that little period of dating that I maybe just talked on the phone with once or twice and knew it wasn't going anywhere, because I could tell that they were someone who was toxic. We might have went out, but I wasn't afraid to cut things off early on. And especially coming out of a relationship that did not work, I did not want to have to do that again. So I would have rather have been alone than to entertain a toxic relationship. And so that's why I want to talk about too, what are some of the reasons why in a romantic relationship that we can end up entertaining and staying in or engaging in, starting whatever, a relationship that we see is toxic from the beginning. And especially when I'm talking about being in these relationships later in age. Well, one of the first things that we need to make sure to avoid in a toxic romantic relationship, or how to avoid even getting into a toxic romantic relationship, is you can't get into a relationship out of desperation. And I know desperation is like a dirty word. No one ever wants to admit that they were desperate in any way, shape, or form in their life, but it's just us talking. So we got to call a thing a thing. And there are times in life where you may feel desperate. When I say desperate, I mean just lonely, willing to settle, because desperation will cause you to settle. The loneliness sets in, again, once you reach a certain age and you're kind of looking for what's going to be going on in the second half of your life, and you want someone to share that with, and it can cause you to be desperate. You've dated and nothing seems to work. And so you kind of settle, which can wind you up into a toxic relationship. So you never want to enter into a relationship feeling desperate. That's the whole thing. Love yourself first. Explicitly, you have to know that you are enough. You have to know that there is someone out there for you. They may not, like they say, the Lord may not come when you want him, but he's always right on time. And if you are trusting and believing that God is going to send you someone, you have to be patient and know that, hey, I'm ready for somebody right now, but I'm not going to be desperate and just settle for anybody just because I'm lonely. I'm going to find some different things to do. I'm going to continue to work on me, and I'm going to wait. And you're exactly right, Michelle, vulnerability as well. And there's a thin line with the vulnerability, because that's something that I struggled with when I was dating. And even in the beginning of Wallace and I's relationship, I was such an independent woman and so proud, which is not always a great thing. It was hard for me to be vulnerable. So you want to have a certain sense of vulnerability because you want to be able to let people in and have them to get to know you, but you also want to be guarded. And when you recognize the signs, or when you see those signs, I need y'all to act on them, because when you don't, and you think things are just going to change, or you think that you'll just get used to it, that's not usually how it works. We have to go with our gut, because if you don't go with your gut, you're going to end up in that toxic relationship. So if this is someone where you don't necessarily like the way they speak to you, or maybe they're not showing up the way you expect them to show up, maybe they don't have the ambition that you feel that they need to have, whatever it is, if that is an issue, for the most part, not to say that any relationship is perfect or there aren't things you're going to have to work on, along the way. But if it's something, and you hear Wallace and I talk about this all the time, if it's something that is a non-negotiable for you, something that you feel like, I cannot live with this, then it's going to cause you to have a toxic relationship. And what I mean by that is there is going to be a lot of conflict in the relationship. There's going to be a lot of struggle in the relationship. That's going to turn into resentment. And when you're dealing with all of those types of things, then that means the toxic relationship is now going to affect you, as to where you may have gone into the relationship being a happy person, an upbeat person, a motivated person. If you're dealing with that type of thing day after day with no change, it's going to become toxic, and you're going to see the changes in yourself. And when I talk about toxic, I'm talking about toxic like a poison. It's the same as if you're drinking a bottle of cyanide every single day. It is slowly but surely killing you. Remember, I shouldn't have said cyanide, because I watch a lot of snaps. Cyanide kills you kind of quick. So it would be like drinking some, what's that stuff you put in the car? Antifreeze every single day, because that kills you slow. Y'all, I just know this stuff. Don't judge me. No judgment zone. But I'm just saying, that's what it's like. And it's slowly but surely going to be tearing you apart from the inside out. And when I say from the inside out, I mean that. Like, toxic relationships, they wear on you. They can cause you to have high blood pressure. They can cause you to have fatigue. You see it in your face. You're always frowning. You're upset. You get bags under your eyes. You're tired. This toxic relationship is actually eating you alive, and you're not getting what you wanted. And so you go into a relationship because of desperation. You go into the relationship looking for companionship, but you're miserable. And so that's the whole thing too. Settling is so scary because you don't get your end result anyway. And so what you end up realizing is you would have been better off by yourself anyway. Another reason why sometimes people end up in romantic relationships that are toxic, because they don't always start that way. People do change and things happen in life. And sometimes people in relationships grow apart, and you kind of know that this is the end, or I'm not happy. I'm feeling miserable. This isn't the same as it was. I'm not in love anymore. But you stay in the toxic relationship because you don't want to start over. That is something that you don't want to find yourself getting involved in either, because you don't want to start over because you don't want to be by yourself and your girlfriends or your guy friends are telling you that The dating pool is slim to none. And so you decide to stay in this toxic relationship where there's no communication. You're not in love. All of the thrill is gone, but you're staying in it because you don't want to be by yourself. And I cannot express to you all enough that the fear of being alone is something that you really need to examine within yourself, because if you can't be happy with you, then staying with someone else is not going to make you happy either. Now, don't get me wrong. We all want companionship from time to time. We all would love to have that person to grow old with. I'm very happy with myself. I can be with myself all the time. I can, hang out. I like my me time. But of course, I love spending time with my husband. Nothing compares to that. But there are certain people who just don't feel complete unless they have someone else. And so if you're having those types of feelings and that's what's making you stay in a relationship that's toxic, then that's when you need to examine and have that time with yourself, that self-reflection, maybe seek counseling, and just kind of get to the root cause as to why you feel better being with someone in an unhealthy relationship than you do with being with yourself, if that makes sense. Because that means that the relationship you have with yourself is unhealthy, which can also be causing the relationship you have with your significant other to be unhealthy. Because when you have certain issues with yourself, if you suffer with self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, those things can also infiltrate the relationship. People like to be with people who are confident with themselves. People like to be with people who feel good about who they are. And if you're someone who is always talking down about yourself, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm getting old, whatever, that can start to make the relationship toxic as well, because this person who was all vibrant and full of life in the beginning, who is now a Debbie Downer, makes that person feel like they're not with the person who they first met. And so whenever you're in these types of relationships, it is very important to always examine yourself. And like I tell you guys all the time, I am self-aware. It is a lot easier, in my opinion, to find the problem to be with you than someone else, because I've said this a million times. It is a lot easier to change you than to change someone else. And let me even go this far. It is impossible to change someone else. You can make suggestions, you can try to aid, you can try to offer advice, but you can't change them. They have to want to change themselves. But if you're having an issue in a relationship and you are honest with yourself and you're in counseling, you do whatever you need to do, and you find the problem is with you, guess what? That's wonderful, because you can change you. It's all up to you. However you show up in this world is completely and totally up to you. However you treat yourself, however you think about yourself, it's up to you. So it is so much easier. Like, I love, no matter what, and even in business, and we'll talk about that later, but if there's something that goes wrong with our company, I much rather look through everything, talk through everything, and find out it was something I did wrong, because guess what? I can fix it. But when it's somebody else, then I got to make phone calls. I got to try to hold people accountable. I have, so don't be afraid to look at that man or woman in the mirror, because trust me, as much as we all just want to feel like we have it all together and whatever, we don't. But the good news is, when you are the problem, then that means you are in control and you can fix it. And so let me see. Another reason why people stay in toxic relationships, toxic romantic relationships, is because of their children or their family. People, you may be somebody's mama, you may be somebody's daddy, somebody's daughter, somebody's whatever. We all somebody's something. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is we can only live our lives for ourselves. And when we stay in relationships because we don't want our children to be, children of divorced parents. We don't want our parents to be disappointed in us because our relationship failed. And again, I'm not on here preaching and teaching divorce and breaking up or whatever, but I'm just saying it is what it is. Sometimes we do get to those times in a relationship where it's time to call it quits. And I just want to free you all from all of the stigma attached to that is going to not allow you to be a happy person. And so when we're thinking about, a relationship and we're like, oh, well, how's the family going to look at me? Or the kids are not going to be happy with this. Well, first of all, if the relationship is toxic, those people that you're worried about probably realize it already. Secondly, if they realize the relationship is toxic, they're probably not happy with whatever it is that they're getting from the relationship anyway. Because if mama and daddy ain't happy and there's fussing and fighting in the house or whatever, and I'm talking about even with adult children, adult parents can stress their adult children out, especially if they grew up with the toxic relationship and now they're grown and going on, but they still have to hear mama or daddy complaining about this. How about this? Make the decision to either do better or to go your separate ways, because it's going to be better for everyone. Don't use other people as an excuse for you to not live your best life. And guess what? If they can't accept it, they will eventually get over it, because they cannot give you what you need to be happy. Only you can give you what you need to be happy. And so if they're giving you a hard time about wanting to do something different, then you might have toxic relationships with them as well, because people who we have healthy, loving relationships with, it's not that they never disagree with us. It's not that they never call us out on our stuff, because we need that sometimes. But when they see us hurting and in pain, they should be there to support and uplift and encourage, not to say how it's going to affect them. And no one really wants anyone telling them how to live their lives. And if you are having those conversations, you might want to turn those tables. Well, how would you feel if it were you and I was telling you what to do or not to do based on my feelings? It's just not fair. It's not a comfortable place to live, and it's not going to allow you to live your best life. And so I wanted to touch on those things as far as a romantic relationship. If y'all have any comments, questions, or whatever, I'm trying to pay attention to my comments. I'm not a real good multitasker. Again, I am transparent. I say I can multitask, but what I realize is I can do a couple of things okay at one time. But if I focus on one thing at a time, I can do each thing with excellence. So I'm trying to kind of look over here, but I really want to be more engaging in what we're talking about. But yeah, y'all be sure to, chat me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. So anyway, that's what I have as far as romantic relationships. And so I really believe that the number one point I want to stick with is I want to drive home is if you're dating, then when you see something that's not right, trust your gut and remember what I said, because it's better to end it 5 days instead of 5 years in. If it don't look right, probably ain't right. Probably not going to be able to change it. And if you're already in it and have been in it sometime, you might want to examine what your next steps might want to be if you truly are looking to live your best life. Now, the next type of relationship that I want to jump into that can be toxic are friendships. And friendship is something that I do not take lightly. And I encourage the rest of you not to take it lightly either. I am very, very intentional about who I call my friend. I am very selective about who I call my friends. And reason being is I don't want to have toxic friendships. Toxic friendships can sometimes be just as taxing, if not more, than toxic relationships of a romantic nature. Toxic friendships sometimes happen over time. They're a little bit different, I feel like, than a romantic relationships. A lot of times we can get into romantic relationships and we kind of saw where it could be toxic from day one, where friendships, especially with someone of the same sex, sometimes it takes a little while to see it because you're not as invested in the very beginning, which is why I'm such a proponent for being friends with someone before you get into a romantic relationship, because friendships usually start out a little easier, a little more fun, where people are just being who they are and you just kind of get to know each other casually and there's no pressure. And so that's why, though, sometimes it takes a little longer to tell that it's toxic, because you're not really thinking about it that deep. But there are some signs to recognize in toxic friendships, and I just kind of want to touch on those a little bit. To me, one of the key signs of a toxic friendship is when everything seems to be one-sided. Pay attention in conversations with your friends. And again, I'm not out here telling everybody to get rid of all your friends either. I'm telling you because we need friends. But my thing is just to make sure that you are all loving yourself first explicitly, because I want everyone to be living their best life. So A thing to look out for, if you feel like you may have a toxic friendship, is when you're in conversation with this person, do they ask you about you and how you're doing, or is everything always about them? A little thing you might want to try is, if you're in a conversation with someone and they're talking about them and their kids and what they have going on and what's going on at work, and then when you interject and you're ready to talk about your stuff, then they're like, girl, let me call you back. I gotta go. And the conversation is not that interesting anymore. That could be a toxic friendship, because that's a sign of selfishness. And that's a sign that maybe they're not that interested in you, because some people like to have friends who just want to cheer them on, but they don't know how to be the cheerleader. So you have to, be cognizant of that. Toxic friendship can be someone who only contacts you when they need you. Now, I'm not talking about the type of friends, that you may not talk every day. I have a lot of friends like that. I am not the greatest communicator, keeper in toucher, check on you type person. My friends, and I know Vonda's out there watching, she can attest to that. I am a horrible friend when it comes to sending a card or saying, hey, I was just checking on you, but I'm there in a clutch. You need me, I'm there. No questions asked. You can call me at 4:00 in the morning. If you are truly my friend, I'm going to be there for you. But, we all have our little quirks. So I'm not talking about the type of friend that you don't talk to every day, but I'm talking about that friend that you only hear from when they need you. So my friends can say, I may not call them every day or even every month. I may not remember that you said that your cat died and you've been having a hard time. I may not remember to check on you to see how you're dealing with Fluffy's death. I may not, but I will, when we talk, ask you about you, what you have going on, offer to help in any way I can. I'm not going to reach out to you just when I need something. If you have that type of friend who only reaches out to you just when they need something, that may be a toxic relationship, because that can be draining. Thank you, V. Wallace, what you talking about? Friends, the ones we can't depend on. See, that's what I'm saying. We got hecklers on here, y'all. Hecklers. Facebook, can you please block Wallace Hall Jr.? But anyway, it's because that can be draining on you. It makes you feel like when you see their name pop up on the phone, you don't even want to answer, because they're just gonna want something. And it's not that you don't want to help, but it's just like you wonder, is that the only reason why we're friends? That's a toxic relationship. One thing that I have learned and said and live by in my adult life, in my middle-aged adult life, is I need my friendships to be easy. I don't need to be worried about, are we friends? How good of friends are we? Can I trust you? Are we good? I don't have time to worry about that. And when I say I need my friendships to be easy, I'm not saying that, or don't call me if something goes on, I'm only here for the laughs. No, if you need me and things are going whatever kind of way in your life, if you're sick, if you're having financial hardships, if you just need someone to talk to, I'm there. That's why I need my friendships to be easy, because guess what? Those times are coming. The times are coming where somebody's going to be sick, somebody's going to lose their job, somebody's kid is going to lose their mind. And that's what I want my energy to be used on. I don't need to be wasting energy on petty stuff. Definitely cannot waste energy on whether or not I can trust somebody. Another thing you need to watch out for when I'm talking about trust in toxic friendships is your friend easily friends with people who aren't friends with you? Now that might sound messy, mean girl, whatever, but I'm just going to say it is what it is. I have a difficult time entertaining friendships. Now, we may be able to be cordial. There's a difference. I compartmentalize my relationships. So that's why I said friends, that's important to me. That's my sister. That's my girl. But I have plenty of associates. I have plenty of people who I can just have casual conversation with, like, oh, that was some crazy weather we had in Texas yesterday. And, oh, whatever's going on with politics, whatever. I have those kind of people, but I'm talking about friends. If you are truly my friend, then it's going to be hard for me to accept or be comfortable with you being friends with my enemy. Now, again, I'm also not the type of person who dictates other people's relationships with others, because I do realize that everybody doesn't connect the same way. I may have a not so good feeling about somebody and maybe we don't vibe and you think they're hilarious and you can hang with them. That's one thing. But I'm talking about a true person who has done me wrong somewhere where I got, the data. I have the proof. You know what went down. You know what happened to me. You know what they said about me. You know what they did to me. Not just, I'm not really feeling her. I'm not really feeling him. Like, they funny, but they ain't funny. That's not the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, we don't all have to have mutual friends, but I'm saying if there is someone who has slandered my name, they talk smack on me, they be looking at my husband's booty, whatever it is, that, then I'm going to be feeling some kind of way. Yes, Michelle, got the receipts. I have the receipts. Not something that's just, I don't really care for them. I'm talking about, that what they did, but then you still want to be cool with them. That's a toxic friendship, because guess what? Now I feel like I can't trust you, because if we're friends and I know how we talk, then I'm going to be wondering what you're talking about when you talk to her. And if I'm not friends with her or him or whatever, I don't need you sharing my life and my business with them. That's a toxic relationship. I don't need to be worried about, oh, well, is she telling her this, or what did she say when she said this about me? I don't have time for that. And I'm just going to be flat out honest. I'm not comfortable with it. So therefore we won't be friends. Now we might be cool. And if we were really, really friends, I'll have the conversation with you. And I'm going to say, you need to make a choice. And to me, if your choice is to say, well, I still feel like I can be friends with both of y'all or whatever, then I feel like you really weren't riding for me, or maybe you feel like my feelings aren't valid as to what this person did. And I just can't have that type of friendship. We can be cool, but we can't be friends. That's toxic, because anything that is causing me, I'm not worried about who my husband's talking to and what he's saying. So I definitely don't have the time or energy to worry about what one of my friends is doing and who they talking to and going out with. It's just something that I don't want to have to worry about. And another thing that can let you know if you have a toxic friend is if it's someone who constantly wants to come to you to tell you what other people have said about you, but they can't really tell you what they said when the person said it. See, I need my friends to defend me in my absence. I hope that there's not a whole lot to defend. And as we get older, a lot of that petty messiness and all that should be gone by the wayside. But, it is what it is. There are still people who will try you. And I need to know as friends that you have my back. I don't need you just sitting and listening and bringing me back information. I need to know what you said, because I am a friend who is like that. If I have a friend and somebody else is talking about them, the least I'm going to say is, not in front of me. We're not going to do that. Because if I feel like I'm not in the right environment or the right situation to straight up have a detailed conversation about it, the least I'm going to do is say, that's my friend. You can feel about them any way you like, but what I'm not going to do is sit here and let this conversation go on about them in their absence. That's the least I'm going to do. And if I feel like the time is appropriate, because I'm always going to carry myself in a certain way, depending on where I am and who, I'm not going to be showing my behind and turning over tables like I'm one of the housewives for whichever city you want to call it. But if the time is right and it is the right occasion, then I will want to have a conversation and let them know, look, that's my friend. Whatever you're saying, I don't agree with. I also don't appreciate, and da, 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 da. To me, that's what a friend is. And that's why it may be hard for some people to be my friend, because being my friend does come with some standards. And that's why I don't use the word loosely. Friendships change and evolve. Another reason why people sometimes end up in toxic friendships is because maybe you've been friends since. And that is something that I think a lot of people get caught up in when it comes to relationships and friendships. Well, we've been knowing each other since Lassie was a pup. My grandmother and her grandmother, used to go to sunrise service on Easter mornings together, whatever it is. That's great, but that's longevity. That has nothing to do with loyalty in a real relationship, because none of us are the same person today that we were in 5th grade. So why do we expect our relationships and everybody else to be the same? Now, again, I'm not saying that you can't have friends that you've had since the 5th grade, but what I'm saying is when you notice things in the relationship changing and you're no longer comfortable with it, or you're starting to question things, don't allow yourself to stay in it because you've been friends since the 5th grade. It doesn't matter. If someone does not have your best interest in heart, it doesn't matter how long you've known them. That's still a toxic friendship. And sometimes one of our biggest flaws and faults is in how we end up getting in situations that are toxic is because we simply don't know when to let go. And sometimes you got to let go. And we're holding on to this quantity of friends because we want a lot of friends or we want to be popular, which the whole thing popular is overrated. I've always thought that even since a child, never really cared about being popular. Because I don't want to be popular. I want to be powerful. I want to be impactful. Popularity means nothing, but you hold on to these relationships because you've been friends since whenever, but you're constantly upset. You're constantly feeling betrayed. You're constantly feeling used, but you've been friends since 5th grade. Like, what's that even mean? Some relationships, I have some friends that I've only had for a year or so who have already proven to be better friends to me than some people that I've known for 30 years. Or maybe that person I knew for 30 years, for the first 15, they were great friends. And then things changed. And so then I met some new friends because I changed. My likes changed. The way I carry myself changed. My interests changed. The way I think changed. And so you meet different people. And so that person you've been friends with in 5th grade, guess what? They're changing too. And maybe they're not changing the same way that you're changing. And so why continue to carry that weight with you and calling that person a friend when they're not pouring into your life? Relationships need to be give and take. They shouldn't be one-sided, and they definitely shouldn't be draining. We create relationships because we want to grow with someone, whether that's romantically or in a regular friendship. You want to grow with each other. You want to encourage each other. You want to uplift each other. If you're not getting any value from the friendship, if you're always upset, if you're always in some kind of chaos, then what is the point of the friendship? And again, you can be the person in the friendship who is causing the toxic nature of it by enabling it, by always accepting it. So you can be stunting someone's growth emotionally, spiritually, or whatever by staying in the relationship. Because again, change can free you both. And so you want to be really cognizant of that. Are you friends with this person just because you're friends with them and you don't know what else to be but their friend because you've always been in their friend? Or are you friends with this person because they pour into you, because they make you a better person? That is the reason to be in a relationship, because there's someone that you feel like you can give value to and they give value to you. Someone who is like-minded and someone who is there to uplift you and not tear you down. Let me see, what else did I have on here? Another reason why sometimes people stay in toxic friendships is because they don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, or they don't want them to be upset with them. And my thing with that is, who cares? Again, like my grandmother said, the same way you got mad, you can get glad. You have to be your own advocate. You cannot let other people control how you are going to move in this world. Now, I am not saying you need to call people, cuss them out, give them a piece of your mind and hang up on them and call them out the name. No, I'm just saying sometimes we can implement what my husband has coined as the phase out, depending on how close of a friendship it was. And I'm embarrassed that I even used that. That's the little phrase he used when we first started seriously dating. And there were some women that, he didn't want to date anymore, but that he thought that they were great people. He didn't want to hurt their feelings. So he just slowly but surely started phasing them out. Craziest thing in the world. But I do see where it is useful in relationships. So some people, if the friendship really wasn't all that anyway, you can kind of phase them out where you never even have to have that crucial conversation, which I'm a fan of the crucial conversations, because I feel in crucial conversations, we all have the opportunity for growth. But if you don't want to have that crucial conversation, you can just kind of phase them out. Stop sharing so much with them. Don't answer their phone call all the time. Don't text back and forth with the silly little memes, whatever. Just slowly but surely backpedal out of the relationship and they'll notice. But if it is someone where I have had these instances where you feel like it was a close relationship and a close friendship and things have changed, you need to just have that conversation. You need to put on your big girl panties or your big boy drawers, whatever, and say, hey, look, player, this is how I'm feeling with the way things have been going down. These are some things that I noticed, and I'm not really comfortable with them anymore. I feel like our friendship has changed because, again, you can be helping them as well. Sometimes people aren't aware, or they're not ready to look at, or like I said, have that question with the man or woman in the mirror, what they are doing and how they can be a toxic person. And so you can have that conversation. Hopefully they'll be receptive, but you may just want to let them know that where my life is going right now and what I want for my life and the way I want to feel on a daily basis, this relationship is not adding value to that. This relationship is not giving me what I need. I'm feeling more drained than I am feeling charged. And I want to have relationships that pour into me. I want relationships that are active in my growth, not relationships that make me feel sad or uncomfortable. And so I feel like our relationship may need to change. I've had that with certain people where I want to make it clear to them that I'm not saying I hate you. I'm not saying I'll never speak to you, depending on the reason it is. But I just want you to know that it is changing. I want you to know that these are the reasons why I feel like it needs to change. And again, as adults, we need to be able to have those crucial conversations. What do you say? Bye, Felicia. We do not have to say bye, Felicia, but kind of. But you do. You need to have those relationships. You need to be honest with people, because you want to be the type of friend to someone else that you're wanting for yourself. And sometimes even in the phase out and maybe the breakup of the relationship, you still want to be a friend. You don't want to be a hypocrite. And something I want to tell y'all when it comes to friends as well, social media plays so much these days. I mean, even as adults, I know people try to act like, oh, well, I don't be on Facebook like that, or I don't pay attention to what's on Facebook, but it's not true. We on there just as much, if not more than the kids. We do pay attention to what's on social media. And the reason why I know we pay attention is how many of y'all put up that post, I'm going to be off social media for a little while. I'm fasting from social media, or I've had to go in there and cut my friends list down because certain people, blah, blah, blah. I see it, y'all. Don't try to play me. It's okay. But that's how you know that social media plays a part in it. And what I want to do is empower you to, yes, absolutely, cut that friends list down. Why are you letting what other people are saying and doing on social media distract you, upset you, or make you feel like you got to get off social media because it's just too much going on and people are too crazy? Why are you friends with these people? Why are you following these people? And again, I've been guilty of that as well, where I've had certain people on social media who I felt like either things that they were saying bothered me, or maybe it's people who I thought were close to, and I'm looking at, well, every time such and such says something, they comment on it or they share their stuff, but they never share my stuff. And they know I'm out here. I'm trying to grow my brand. I'm trying to grow my tribe. Again, y'all, I'm going to be transparent. I'm not going to be the one who say, no, not me. Yeah, me. I'm looking like, well, why is Sally always liking on her stuff? And I thought me and her were cool, and I'm putting it out here and asking them to like and share, but she can't never like and share my. Guess what? I don't need to be friends with Sally on social media no more. I'm not getting off social media. I'm getting Sally off my social media. That's what I'm doing. I'm not shutting it down. I use social media for business. I use it for socialization. I enjoy scrolling, looking at the pictures of everybody's grandbabies, looking at the positive stuff. I'm not shutting it down for no time at all. The only time I'm going to shut it down is if I just feel like I'm spending too much time. And so that's a sacrifice I want to make, whether it's something I'm doing spiritually or whatever. But I will never, no, ever get off social media because other people are getting on my nerves. That's a toxic relationship, because if what they're saying or doing on social media, or the lack of what they're saying or doing on social media, is bothering you, then that means in your mind, you have some kind of relationship, some kind of connection with that person, and what they do affects you emotionally. So guess what? Off. And another thing is too, that gets me, why we got to announce it? See, I just let y'all know that I have unfollowed, unfriended, blocked several people. Anybody on here means you're probably my friend on Facebook. You've never seen me announce that on Facebook. Why am I giving power to that? That is us being toxic in a relationship. That is us being passive aggressive. Because what I can say I've never seen, and I can't say it's never been done, but nobody ever tags the people to give them a warning that they blocking them. You don't ever say, Sally, I'm blocking you off Facebook because you're getting on my nerves. You got too much going on. No, you just put this cryptic message out there. Too much mess on Facebook. Got to get off Facebook. That's being toxic. Just block them and keep it moving. And let me tell you, it is a weight off your shoulders, because social media is major in our lives. Like I said, everybody may not want to admit it. A lot of people want to say, I don't be on there like that. And one thing too, what I know to be true, you may not be on there posting like that, but you watching. And it's okay. We all do it. It's social media. We're social beings. But the thing is, we don't have to announce those moves, because that's toxic as well. Never, if you find yourself being passive aggressive, and you have to admit it to yourself. You have to admit it to yourself. That was passive aggressive. That was cryptic. I just said it to try to stir the pot. I just want people to wonder what I'm talking about. That is toxic. That's having a toxic relationship with yourself, because you're not addressing the toxic relationships you're having with others. So that's just my 2 cents. I wanted to put it out there. But if you are feeling some kind of way about social media and what's going on social media, do yourself a favor and get out of those toxic social media relationships. If Sally's getting on your nerves, block Sally. And you know what? Facebook has a way where you can do it in phases. If you're not quite ready just to block them, you can unfollow first. And if that still doesn't seem to do it, then you can unfriend them. If they're still popping up because you don't have all the privacies on your page, or, whatever it is, then you can block them. It's baby steps. It's fine. Rome wasn't built in a day, but I'm just saying, these toxic Facebook and Instagram relationships, they are not allowing us to live our best life. And so I'm just letting you know. And see, I block folks. They don't even know I blocked them. And that's the thing too. People usually aren't as interested in us as we are in them, and vice versa. It's whatever. Let me see. Oh, Dawn said guilty. Hey, Sammy G. Michelle said preach. Y'all are too funny. Yes. So we have to be sure that, the relationships that we entertain, whether they be virtual or in person, whatever it is, we just have to take a look at how they are affecting us. And again, it's not always going to be positive, but let the negative stuff be serious stuff. Like if you are having a negative encounter in a friendship, let it be because there is something that was out of everybody's control. So you can really be there for that person and be their friend to support them in their time of need. But don't let the negativity be over petty stuff. And sometimes, even in a toxic relationship, it is kind of hard to let go because we're just used to it. But just know that if it's affecting you in a negative way, it may be a little sad at first, but joy comes in the morning. I'm going to let you know there is nothing more liberating than freeing yourself from a relationship that has been dragging you down. There is nothing noble about staying in a friendship or any other type of relationship when you do not feel like you're getting anything out of it. And so I just want to say, y'all, start the blocking, start the whatever you got to do, but free yourself from these toxic relationships. Well, the next type of toxic relationship, and this one is probably going to be one of the most touchy, is the familial toxic relationship. And when I say that, I mean the relationship with the people in your family. Those relationships are relationships for the most part that we've been born into, because even though friendships can turn into family, I have a lot of friends that I consider to be family. But for this instance, I'm actually talking about your blood family, your DNA, the people who you were born into and they were just there, and more were born and they were just a part of who you are. We have relationships with those people. Unfortunately, those relationships are not always the greatest for us. Hey, Jody. DNA, blood, whatever, does not make you compatible. It just makes you related. DNA does not bring about happiness just because. When you are related to people, when you are family with people, when you share DNA with people, you still have to do the work for those relationships. And unfortunately, they don't always turn out the way we wish. They're some of the hardest relationships to decide to change and alter or maybe back out of, but they are some of the easiest that we recognize as toxic because we have been in them the longest and we've seen everything. And sometimes you have to make that break. Being family does not necessarily mean that you have to share everything. You share your DNA, you don't have a choice in that, but it doesn't mean you have to share your whole life with them. It doesn't mean that you have to socialize with them. And believe it or not, we can make that decision. We have that right. But there is something about family and the word loyalty that somehow get confused with relationship. You feel like because this is my mother or this is my brother or this is my cousin that I have to be in relationship with them. But that's not necessarily true. Again, we weren't put on this earth to be abused. We weren't put on this earth to have to prove ourselves to other people. We have the right that even with family that we should be able to have relationships that are pouring into us, relationships that are valuable, not relationships that are always full of having to defend yourself, or relationships that are always being questioned. You have to determine how the relationship works for you. And again, just like any other relationship, they don't always start off a certain way, but they end up a certain way, especially the relationships with mother and daughter, father and son, siblings, whatever, because you're with these people since birth. And a lot of times what happens is that relationship that I had with you as a child, when I go into adulthood, it changes. And sometimes one of the parties isn't willing to see it change. A lot of times parents have a problem seeing their children as adults and giving them the respect that they deserve as adults, and they want them to still act as if they're 12 years old when now they're 42. And sometimes you have to make it known that you are an adult and I want to have this relationship with you, but I need you to treat me like an adult. I need you to respect me. In a lot of cultures, that is something that is kind of like, what, respect you? I'm the mama, I'm the daddy. But as adults, and as adults who are trying to live a good life and do the things that we're needed to do, none of us are perfect, but I don't know many people who don't deserve respect. And yes, we adults deserve respect from our parents. Michelle, you said you're guilty of sharing too much and talking too much. Yeah, because it happens. We get caught up in that because who do you feel the most comfortable with? Those that you grew up with, in the house with, share the DNA with. So you feel like you can tell them anything, even though it's come to bite you in the butt before. And again, I'm speaking from experience, but still, that's our comfort zone. And so a lot about being in toxic relationships is that comfort zone, because when we talk about a comfort zone, just because it's a comfort zone, I'm not saying it's a good zone. That's just where we're comfortable being. That's just like, for instance, everybody knows I love Great Danes, and I've had a couple of Great Danes in my life, and Great Danes are really big dogs. And for whatever reason, Great Danes feel like they are little, so they like to ball up in little spaces. And so I would have these Great Danes, and they had crates or cages or whatever it is, and they would ball up and get in this crate that was way too small from them, that made them feel secure. That was their comfort zone. But as soon as it was time for them to get out of that crate, they're stretching and, getting a slow start. Why? Because that was their comfort zone, but it wasn't necessarily comfortable. It wasn't necessarily where they needed to be, but because for whatever reason, that's what they were used to, that's what they did. And that's what happens to us a lot with our families, because we grew up most of the time under the same roof with these people. We know them like the back of our hands. And so that's our comfort zone. And so we share everything with them, but then we act shocked when we don't get the response that we were looking for. But the thing is, like I said before, we know them, but sometimes our expectations of people are too high, which is another way to get in a toxic relationship, when you're expecting something out of someone that they're not capable of giving. But the thing is, if you notice that, then the onus is on you to make that change, whatever that change needs to be. I'm not telling you don't be in a relationship with the person or don't share anything, but you need to be very intentional on what you share and how much you share, and be ready if you don't get the response that you wanted, because again, that's on you. Nobody can pull it out of you. Nobody can force it. But a lot of times what happens with family relationships as well is we feel almost like, what's the word I want to use? I cannot think of the word, but we feel like we have to share because again, it's the part of that loyalty piece. So how do I do this and I don't tell my mom? How do I do this and I don't tell my sister? I don't tell my brother? Or how do I make this choice and I don't include them? But again, that's because of the brainwashing. And I'm just going to call a thing a thing. A lot of times when we grow up in the house with our parents and whatever, and it's not something that's done on purpose, but we get brainwashed like we have to tell them everything. And if we don't, then that means we trying to hide and sneak. And sometimes you have to think, there are people just like I am. So why I got to tell you, like, who are you? You my mama, you my daddy, whatever, but I'm grown. I don't have to tell you everything. I don't need your approval on everything. And that's okay. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean that I don't care about you. It doesn't mean that I don't respect you. It just means that I am in a space where I am comfortable and confident in me and the decisions that I make, and I'm not seeking your approval. That's a tough one. Because we do want the approval of our family. And again, that's when we have to look at ourselves, look at that man or woman in the mirror and say, what is it that I am lacking for me that makes me feel like, even though I know I'm probably not going to like the response I get, I'm probably not going to like the questions I get, but what is it about me that I still don't feel confident in my decisions unless I run it by them? Because again, people can only respond to what you give them. If you haven't given them the information, there's nothing for them to respond to. People can only give their opinions on what you've shared with them. So why are you constantly giving information for people to give their opinions when you know how it's going to make you feel? So when you're constantly seeking someone else's approval, then that should make you look at yourself and say, am I really okay with what I'm doing? Am I really okay with me? Am I truly loving myself first explicitly? Am I the reason why I'm in these toxic relationships? Because I'm not confident in who I am and I need someone else to co-sign on it before I feel like I can move forward? Or are you someone who is afraid to do things? And so maybe you share them because you know that somebody's going to cut it down. And that just gives you an excuse not to change or move forward. So again, in relationships, I want us always to be looking at the people that we're in a relationship with, but looking at ourselves first to find out, why am I in this relationship in the first place? Or why have I been dealing with this for so long? And so we really have to, everything, like I said, is going to start with us. And some of the hardest conversations for these relationships is going to be with family. And guess what? Every once in a while, even with family, you have to make that break and love people from a distance, because if your goal is to truly live at your highest self and be able to achieve your destiny at its fullest, no matter who it is, you can't afford the baggage of toxic relationships. What you say, Jody, they hurt you and act like you did something to them. Yes. I mean, our family members, unfortunately, and I'm not saying everybody or that it's on purpose, y'all, because, you know, that's not the case. But because we love them, and that's the thing with the familial relationship, is there's love involved. And so sometimes they're the ones that can hurt us the quickest. They're the ones that can manipulate us the easiest. They're the ones that make us second guess ourselves the most. And so sometimes we have to back away from those relationships. I mean, just temporarily sometimes, to get ourselves in check, to deprogram whatever it was that's been drilled into us for 40 some years, 30 some years, 50 some years in some cases. We just need that step back. And yeah, don't be looking at you crazy. I mean, one thing family like to say a lot is, oh, you acting funny. Oh, you whatever. But no, I'm taking care of me, because a lot of us were not taught that self-care, taught that introspective look. And so you have to take that time, and it's never too late. And if people truly love and care about you and want you to be your best, they'll understand. And guess what? Even if it's family, if they don't, if you truly want to be the best you, sometimes you have to cut those ties. Another thing with toxic family relationships, getting back to the social media, do not feel like you have to be friends with everybody in your family on social media. Whatever you got going on social media may not be for everybody. So if you have one of those family members that like to call you out on every single thing that you do, or talk about your friends and what they got going on and why'd you post this or why'd you say that, you don't have to be their friend on social media. It is a choice. It is a choice. You should not have to be worried about dipping, dabbing, and whatever. Don't want to post this. I know people who do that. Oh, well, I'm doing this, but don't post me in this because I don't want my mother to see this because I didn't, and I'm talking about grown folks, or don't. And this can happen in regular friendships too. I missed it when we were talking about that just with the regular friendships. People who don't want to share what they have going on social media because this friend might feel some kind of way, or I told her I couldn't go here with her the other day and she gonna get mad if she see me here with you. That is a toxic relationships. The number one thing that I can say that reigns true in any of these relationships that we're talking about is honesty. If you cannot have a relationship that's honest, that is a toxic relationship. That is the number one telltale sign that a relationship is toxic. If you have to hide, and again, you have to look at why you're hiding it. Now, if you're hiding it because you're not comfortable with it, then you can't blame the relationship. But if you are 100% good with what you're doing, who you're doing it with, where you're going, what you're posting, whatever, why are you hiding it from somebody else? And this is somebody that you're in a relationship with. That makes no sense. And so you want your relationships to be able to be honest first and foremost, and you want them to be without judgment. And again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't pull your coattail because none of us are perfect. But if you are confident and happy with what you're doing, you should not have to be hiding it from other people because of what they might say or think. So the first thing I would do is examine myself and what I'm thinking, and am I really comfortable with it? And if I am, then I need to be restructuring that relationship. Like I said, with these toxic relationships, you need to weed through, and some of them you need to weed out. There have been some relationships in my life that I've just had to restructure how I communicate with the person, how I interact with the person. There are other toxic relationships where I have just had to completely cut people out. And again, it doesn't mean that I don't care about them. It doesn't mean that I don't love them. It doesn't mean that I don't still pray for them, whatever it is. It just means that I cannot healthily be in relationship with that person. Now, the last relationship I want to talk about, which this one will probably be relatively short because it doesn't have the same impact when it comes to being toxic, or maybe it doesn't happen as often, but I thought it was definitely worth sharing. And that is business relationships. And so when I talk about business relationships, it is whether it's a relationship where you're in business with someone, or if it is a relationship where maybe you do business for someone, where you're providing a service, or even if you're in corporate America, your relationship with your coworkers, your superiors, whatever it is, those relationships can be toxic as well. That is something that Wallace and I deal with a lot with our company. I saw in teaching soft skills, we deal a lot with business. Soft skills, interpersonal skills, what we teach is how to communicate with one another. We teach people how to work as a team. We teach people how to effectively communicate, actively listen, because if you don't have those things in place in business relationships, they can become toxic. People can take advantage of you in business. The other relationships kind of come into play when you're an entrepreneur and you have friends and relatives who want to take part in your business and reap the benefits of your products and services, but maybe they don't want to pay you full price. That's something that gets me all the time. And so you have to learn how in business to not build toxic relationships. You have to know how to communicate. When you're in corporate America, you have to know how to let your needs be known. You have to know how to speak up for yourself, because you can find yourself being looked over for promotions. You can find yourself doing the brunt of the work when it comes to team projects or whatever. And those relationships can be toxic. I have known people who have quit jobs because of the relationship they have with their boss, but they've never done anything to correct it. You have to realize that we all have some sort of superior, in business, at work, or whatever. But just because someone is your superior doesn't mean that they have the right to walk all over you or talk to you any kind of way. It doesn't mean that you don't have the right to let what's going on with you be known. There is always the opportunity to call for a meeting, to speak things through. You don't let somebody make you quit your job because of the way that they are treating you. Everybody has someone that they answer to. And what I will say in any of these relationships, including the business relationships, is you want to try to come at it with a conversation first. But if it needs to escalate, then you let it escalate. You never let somebody run you out of somewhere because of the way you're feeling, because some people have a superiority complex. Some people just don't know how to talk and treat people. But let me let you know, if I'm in that situation, I'm going to be the first person to help you learn. Because what I'm not going to do, just like I said on Facebook, I'm not getting off of Facebook because other folks are getting on my nerves. I'm getting them off of my Facebook. And the same with the job or business or whatever. I'm not quitting my job because somebody doesn't know how to treat me or how to act. I'm not losing money in my business because somebody feels like they should get stuff for free. No, I'm going to set the stage. I'm going to set the precedence. And one thing, and I cannot believe that I have not said it yet, or maybe I did and just forgot, but you always have to remember that you teach people how to treat you. If you enter into business relationships, personal relationships, or whatever, being passive and letting people walk all over you and not letting your needs be known and not speaking your truth, then that's the stage that you set. And it's a lot harder. It's possible, but it's a lot harder to go backwards and try to say, yeah, I know I went for that for a long time, but I don't go for that no more, than if you just right out the gate. You have to set the stage. You have to let people know what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate, what is negotiable for you and what's not negotiable for you. And so honesty goes hand in hand with communications. You want relationships that are honest, and you also want relationship where the communication is consistent and it is clear. And so that's really all I have about all of this, but I hope that it helps somebody. It has been a ball. Let me read. Hey there, Toya. Yes, ma'am. I went through this a couple of years ago. They almost won, but I stood strong. Yeah, you have to. You have to protect yourself. You have to be, like I said, the biggest advocate for you. Nobody can advocate for you the way you can advocate for you. Nobody can speak your truth and tell what your needs are the way you can. You have to. Oh, well, thank you, babe. Thank you. He said I'm cute, y'all. He's just, yeah, he's wonderful. He's creating a toxic relationship by interrupting me on my live. But anyway, you have to be able to advocate for you. You have to love yourself first explicitly, because people aren't mind readers. Everybody is not cut from the same cloth. Everybody is not compatible. And believe it or not, sometimes people just don't know any better. But like I said, I am a teacher and a trainer by nature. So I am really big on, I can show you better than I can tell you, but I like to start things the way I want to finish them. So whenever I enter into a relationship, I let my expectations be known. I speak up for myself. And again, I'm not talking about being aggressive and super confrontational or anything. I'm just saying you only receive what you allow. And if you nip things in the bud and you start trimming back the fat, you will find yourself to be a lot happier, a lot more content, and you will find your relationships, no matter whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, a family relationship, or a business relationship, you will find them to be a lot more quality when you start implementing these things. When you start trimming back the fat and getting rid of the relationships that aren't pouring into you, you will realize how much freer you feel. You will start to have less stress. You'll sleep better at night. You won't always be cringing whenever the phone rings. It is just an exhilarating, liberating feeling. And so again, I am not out here telling everybody cut all they people off and don't be friends with people. All I'm saying is be honest with yourself and the relationships that you have, and see how that works for you. And also, like I said, the number one thing is look at yourself and the part that you are playing in it, because it is a lot easier to change yourself than it is to change anybody else. What'd you say, Michelle? This was good, all of it, and I'm sharing on social media. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Dawn. Well, guys, I am not going to keep you any longer. This has been so much fun. I promise to show up more often on a regular basis. Like I said, the hallway is coming back. So pretty soon, I think we are going to launch that in June, and Wallace Lee Hall Jr. will be sitting next to me because y'all missed him for whatever reason. No, that's my boo. I love him, and I love doing the shows and the dialogue with him. So we'll be talking about the relationship stuff with the hallway and soft skills for relationships. And your girl, I'm back on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. That is what I'm committed to. And we are going to do some things from the Running From Your Life devotional. We're going to have more conversations like this. And y'all know how I am. I love to hear from you. So if you want to shoot me something in my inbox about something you might want to talk about, I love that. I want to get back to getting my listener letters and reading those, and just, talking about the stuff that kind of affects all of us. Because again, no man is an island, and anything that you're going through, trust and believe there's someone else who's been through it, someone who's going through it, or someone who is about to go through it. And I am a believer in sharing the knowledge, sharing the wealth. That is what we are here for, to help one another uplift, empower, and encourage. So if y'all have anything that you think would be of value for our Life or Tribe, just hit me in my inbox. I'm not real good with checking the inbox, but I do try to look at it at least once a week and weed through and weed out some of the minutia that's in there. But yeah, y'all hit me up, because this is a tribe. We are the Life or Tribe. And when I say that, I don't take that lightly at all, because like I said, when I name my relationships, I'm serious. If you're my friend, you're my friend. If you're a part of the Life or Tribe, you're a Life or Tribe. If you're an associate, you're an associate. If you're family, you're family. But I do take stock in those titles and what they mean. And my Life or Tribe is very important to me. And so I do want you guys to be an active part of what we have going on, because this is not at all about me. It's about us, and you guys are the reason why I do this. And so I definitely want you to be a part of that. So please share the video with your friends on social media. It's live on YouTube as well. So if you're on YouTube, please go, and I always forget to say this, go to YouTube, look up @Stay Hall. Please like and subscribe my page. I was supposed to be going on live on Instagram today, but had some technical difficulties, so I did not go live on Instagram. But moving forward, I will be going live on Instagram as well. And you can also find me there @Stay Hall. So please give me a follow on Instagram if you have not already, and also like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. And Wallace and I will have a YouTube channel. We already have one, The Hallway. So if you just want to go check it out and just like it and subscribe to get ready. But we have not uploaded any videos yet, but we've had the logo made and all that done, because I'm really trying to grow this brand, grow this tribe, grow this ministry. This is what God has given me. I definitely believe that I am walking in my power, in my passion, in my purpose. And I just love you guys for being here with me. And so I just want you to help me to continue to grow it and grow it and grow it, so that this Life or Tribe will be known worldwide. So please hit me up on YouTube @Stay Hall, like and subscribe the page, and there will be some different content. I will be going live there on Tuesdays as well, but there will also be some other content that will be added to the YouTube channel that won't be on Facebook. So there's a bonus to being a part of my YouTube subscriptions as well. So guys, definitely do that. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up. Hit me with that #Lifer. Have not said that in forever. And I see Dawn, you already did that. Thank you so much. Vonda, the #Lifer. Thank y'all so much. And I just love you guys to bits and pieces. And remember, it is so important to love one another, but never forget to live your life. And that's love yourself first explicitly. Good night, y'all. I'll see you next week. Bye.